It's my pleasure to do the last introduction of the year for our ring series, and we're going to end it in a very, very nice way, I think. With this, I get to introduce a very good old friend of our program, Mr. Jeffrey Conn. He's the principal in NAI Hallmark development out of Jacksonville. And I'm going to let him tell you what they do. It's a lot of interesting stuff. But basically, they've had 13 major projects over the years since about 1992, about 1 million square feet of development, but that's only a portion of what they do. And meanwhile, Jeff also brings, prior to that, some 16 years of experience operating one of the most respected commercial mortgage banking firms in the state. And it was while he was there that we first made contact. I'll never forget the fact that one day this individual and a partner walked into my office and introduced himself as Jeff Conn. We're from Alliance Mortgage. What can we do for you? And they simply came over here from Jacksonville to help us understand who they are and what they do, and invited us to a wonderful conference that they held for the industry each year. And this was back in a time when we didn't have very, very good contacts with the industry, such as he's helped us build in modern times. And so it was a great gift to us to take some of the faculty over there and teach us how the world works. So anyway, from that time on, he's been our friend and now very deeply involved with our advisory board. He's now chair this year of the advisory board. He's also a community-oriented person. He's on the industrial task force for the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce, and he chairs an important foundation geared to assisting low-income children over in Jacksonville, and I suspect he does a lot of other things that he doesn't tell us about. So anyway, we are very, very happy to welcome an old friend and a great industry model, Jeff Conn.
Thank you. I'm going to stand right here from Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, can you hear me okay? Very good. As Dr. Archer said, I've been involved with the Bergstrom Center program for a number of years. Totally enjoy it for all kinds of reasons, starting most importantly with people like you sitting in this room. I really enjoy working with the young people and hopefully trying to be a little bit helpful as you ponder your careers and what you're going to do, and give a little bit of guidance just like every other board member. It is certainly my privilege and pleasure this year to serve as its chair, following a lot of very, very capable people before me. Dr. Archer asked me to come today and really pretty much talk to you about the career I've had in real estate and the company that we have been building over the last 20 plus years. It's more of a look at a small company and how we have grown, how I first got into the industry, steps along the way, and I'm going to use my path throughout my career, stop at certain points, talk to you all about some of the projects we've been involved in, and at the end, hopefully you'll connect up some of what I'm saying with some conclusive points. At times it may sound like some of your parents talking about walking to school in the snow with no shoes and socks on, how rough we had it beginning, but it was a tough beginning. Careers have ups and downs and challenges. I'm going to go through a little bit of that with you today, and some of them that I experienced. But fortunately, I sit here today being pretty happy that we've been successful throughout our years and continue to, hopefully. Very briefly, giving a little background on myself and also my partner. As Dr. Archer mentioned, I really started out in the industry in Miami as a mortgage banker in the loan production office down there, having spent 10 years as a traditional mortgage banker representing life insurance companies in placing permanent loans. And a sister company of our mortgage company early on had a real estate and advisory company, formed a real estate investment trust that made a lot of construction loans for condominiums and primarily, and we placed a lot of that loan with condominium developers. That was the first 10 years. I was then asked to come to Jacksonville, where our headquarter office was, and run our loan branches throughout Florida and one in Birmingham. Great experience, like I think many of you will find over your career. Whatever you're doing, your eye may be cast along the lines of the developers. You may not be one starting out. It wasn't long after I started seeing these projects getting financed that I thought, wow, I'd like to be one of those guys. Pretty cool to see these buildings going up. Must feel real great to own one of them. And so in 1987, the president of Alliance Mortgage Company approached me and said, I'm going to retire from the mortgage business. He hired me down in Miami. I kind of followed his career up. You've always wanted to become a developer. I'll back you in that business. And away we went. We left the mortgage company. Not too much difference in time frames. Actually, a little before we left, I left ahead, and I formed the Pinnacle Company, which was a one-person office. Mac McGriff, who actually has been very involved over the years as the president of the mortgage company, was my backer. Mac said, I have no interest in being in the development business, but I'll back you. So away I went and went out, formed the Pinnacle Company, starting to see what I might do developmentally. We built a project which was 100,000 square feet of dock-high warehouse and flex space. Went and found another piece of land. Aim this where? This anywhere? Anywhere. Found another piece of land south of downtown Jacksonville, and had visions of putting warehouses like you see across the street that exist currently that were not there at the time, and an office building. There was a new regional mall being built within a half a mile, and I thought this would be a good spot for it. Unfortunately, I encumbered my first down cycle in the business, like so many of us have to deal with. And that down cycle virtually caused everything to come to a stop. So there we were with 18 acres of land, no lenders, didn't know what to do, and the warehouse that we had, the 50,000 feet in the back, the company went bankrupt. So we had a 50% vacant project, 18 acres of land, and we were in a down cycle. Mac came to me and said, I can't back it anymore. We'll fight through these two deals, but there will be no more Pinnacle Company in terms of my supporting you. Not in a bad way. We continued to office for several years, and we're great friends to this day. But that was my first experience at a down cycle, and what do you do? Well, I went into that endeavor, one of the first lessons I learned, where the entire funding source of the deal was debt. We set up a $500,000 line of credit that funded my salary, that funded pursuit costs, and the debt was getting up there pretty high. The horizon for a couple of years was not going to be supportive of development, and I was a mortgage banker. So, continuing on, I go back to that a moment. From there, 1991 and 92, I describe as survival. I had to buckle down. I went out and got a few management contracts. I did some workout for some banks, did a workout for a life insurance company, anything to get some revenue in, while all the while still having to deal with those two assets. But the market and the economy was starting to come back by 1993, and I had known Alex Coley, my now partner, a number of years in the business. Alex likewise had worked for a locally headquartered real estate development company. Alex was a leasing agent. and prior to that had done some real estate brokerage. His company lost most of the deals they had through foreclosure. He was out stumbling around trying to see what to do, and we got together and said, you know what, things are going to get better. We're starting to see the formation of factors that are going to turn the economy. Let's wing it and let's go out and try to do it again ourselves. So we did. We formed Hallmark Partners in 1993. But this time around, we set down some principles that we adhere to this day. It was easy to some measure because while we wanted to get in real estate development as our biggest goal, we were two guys without really a financial statement. So we started by saying, let's commit to the diversity of income. Let's do more and never lose sight that we need to commit to ancillary income separate from real estate development. Well, we took the skill sets we had at the time. I did some mortgage brokerage work, financed some warehouses, a couple of things. Alex did some leasing. We did some more workout items. Just the two of us. We had a free office space. This is the example of walking to school with no shoes in the snow, but it's true. Couldn't afford a receptionist, but away we went and started the company. The next thing that hit us that was very strategic was East Group Properties. Publicly traded REIT, some of you may know them, have offices in Orlando, do development all across the Sun Belt. East Group Properties, primarily an industrial and flex real estate investment trust. When I had developed Bay Point, I hired CBRE as my leasing agent company. And as amazing as it sounds today, back then they decided in Jacksonville to get out of the property management business. And the broker that I'd been working with said, we just brokered the sale of a warehouse in South Jacksonville, and we're not going to manage it. Do you want to manage it? Well, I jumped on it. And I said, by all means, I'm looking for any income I can find. So took on the management of that, and that proved to be very, very strategic as we move forward. I call East Group Properties the first entree of a strategic alliance to our company. So before long, they got into the market, liked that asset, and came along and acquired 376,000 square feet of 9 buildings, dock and grade level and flex product south of town. We took on, at that point, the leasing for it and Deerwood Distribution Center. At that point in time, we did so by bringing on another person, a leasing agent. That was enough of a critical mass to offer up doing that. They continued on. They acquired another project not too far away. There was some excess land, a parking lot, and they asked us, we think we can squeeze out some more product on this. We designed it, permitted it, negotiated a contract, built it for them, another 36,000 feet, made a little bit of development fees on it, continued growing our leasing product. At that point in time, we brought on a property manager and a building engineer. East Group came back to us and said, we've owned this warehouse for about a year. We want to put permanent debt on it. I said, well, let me take a shot at it. I got a hold of a guy I used to work with in Miami, some of you may know, a guy named Al Rex, and said, Al, I think we can do a permanent loan on this project. And sure enough, we put some life company debt on it. Steinmart, which is a Jacksonville headquartered company, occupied most of the project. And they likewise were growing and had been approached to locate from there out to the western side of town. I came up with the idea, why don't we keep them here? There's room in the back. We expanded them out another 30,000 feet and saved keeping the tenant there. Got another little fee for doing that. They continued on, wanted to be in another market in Jacksonville. We found a piece of land. We developed it for them, got paid a development fee, pre-leased it all up, grew our leasing revenues. They bought another project. We continued expanding our leasing efforts. So East Group was very instrumental in our growth as they added product over the years from 1994 through about 2001. We continue to do all their leasing today. That extends now to some 23, 24 years. It's been a wonderful relationship and strategic for us, certainly. The other advent of a strategic alliance was getting to know Terry Stiles. We got to know Terry from our involvement in NAIOP. Both chapter-wise, Terry came up one time, and then there was a state NAIOP, as there still is, and then there's the national. Terry was growing. Terry, to this day, has a great company. He was Developer of the Year we met him, nationally, NAIOP's Developer of the Year, largest privately owned developer in the state of Florida. And he was on the grow. And in talking with Terry, we discovered he wanted to explore Jacksonville. And so he came up, not to our knowledge, on one trip, and then came up and sat with us on another and said, you guys seem to be people that are trying to make it in this business. You seem to be doing decent in terms of your leasing and management, a little bit of management effort. What do you say we try to do some development in Jacksonville, which we'd certainly been expressing to him. And we said we'd love to. He said, well, do I hire you, or do we joint venture or whatever? And we swallowed hard and said, well, we're not for hire, which was pretty tempting to just say we'll be a part of your company. But we'd like to explore joint venturing with you. So we sat down. We cut a structure, basically where we would find the projects. He wasn't going to find them for us. We'd bring them and sit down and talk to Terry about it. We would do the lion's share of the development. They would get them financed. Alex and I would sign personally alongside of Terry, which was like getting on the back of a racehorse, but we did anyway. He wanted to see the commitment with us. And we started the structure that has led to many deals going forward. We then began looking for the first project, and as a part of that, yes, go ahead.
What would you say was your competitive advantage that awarded you these partnerships with both East Group and the Stiles Corporation? What puts you ahead of other partnerships?
Well, going with East Group, it was, I think, just that we performed well. They were not nearly as big as they are today. In fact, they were a conglomerate of acquiring. Leland Speed, their chairman, was very adept at going around and acquiring some assets and finally formed a REIT. They were not that big, and they were doing that in all their markets. They had no office in Florida at the time. I guess I had just done enough of a job that he kept with us, and then when we brought on our leasing agent, we delivered. You know, that was a big client for us, and still is. And we delivered, and they bought into it. With Terry, again, part of that might have been just timing. He came up, he interviewed, I still to this day don't know who, a couple other people. And again, the chemistry was just there. He saw we were hungry. He saw we were committed. And he tested us out. And one test led, okay, to another that I'll kind of go through here real quickly. But good question. Did I answer you okay? Okay. So we sat, we had the structure down on it. We would lease and manage it. They would finance it. We'd share in the development fees. We would guarantee. They had a bigger share of the ownership, very obviously, but there was enough there to motivate us. And we were ready to commit to our first project. One of the things that we learned early on as we were doing pro formas is, hey, look, you know, we really don't have a lot of equity to put into these things ourselves. So if you're looking for cash out of us, I guess we'll take an even lower position. Well, you've seen this up here by now. One of the things we quickly saw when you have a financial statement like Terry had that's strong with some credibility, the lenders would recognize some of the costs of a development as equity. You just wouldn't pay yourself during the development cycle of them. If you found the piece of land, certainly you get paid by the seller, you could throw that in as equity. Development fees, usually 3 to 4% of the construction hard costs, architectural and engineering, are recognized as legitimate costs. Somebody's got to develop it, somebody's got to be there from beginning to end, somebody's got to coordinate with the architects and the engineers. Those are things they recognize as development. So we would throw those into the deal. Financing fees, that's a mistype up there, but leasing fees, we would promise to lease it up, not take the leasing fees at the time, come up with our own funding for co-brokerage leasing. So those are real costs of a development. We didn't take those. Terry had and still has in-house architecture. He has his own construction company and on those deals where he built for us, which was, by the way, not the first deal, we learned that they could throw those into the deal as equity as well. That helped fund, if you will, part of the cash equity, if you will, that a lender needed that we didn't have. That helped on a number of the deals literally eliminate any external equity partner being required. So the pie was bigger for Stiles and us. Away we went. We found a piece of land that we negotiated that had three phases to it. We designed it, negotiated taking down the land in 3 phases, 18 months apart. The office market was absolutely perfect at the time, and we commenced with the first building. Just wonderful times. We had it leased at about 70% of the construction. We were totally leased at that point, which caused us to scratch the head and say, do we move forward with the second phase? Again, times were pretty good in the 96, 97 time frame. Sure enough, we went ahead and pulled the trigger on the second building. Got it about 50% pre-leased and about 75% leased by the time it topped out and finished. There's obviously one more phase remaining there, and we pulled the trigger without any pre-leasing. Now that's where it was really a tough call for Terry to decide to do that. Terry and us, we could have lost our equity in the first 2 phases, but we pulled the trigger and got it leased up. They were not just doing office, but they were big into the grocery-anchored retail business. So they approached us and said, we got a relationship in particular with Publix. Why don't you go out, look at the corners, look at the growth patterns of the housing. We talked a little bit about what the model looks like, and come back to us with some sites that you think might make some sense. Away we did, and in 1998-99, we moved into the retail business and started our 2 projects almost simultaneously, which doggone near killed me because we didn't have a development manager at the time, but it was a great learning experience. I kind of said, I'll take the retail on. Alex kept the office because he was an office leasing guy. I just said, I'll learn the leasing. And we started 2 projects there. One called Reedy Branch Commons. We sat with Publix. I kind of learned from Bob Breslau, if any of you know him, down at Stiles, how you do a Publix lease, what they're looking for, how you negotiate the deals. We started that one, and as I say, almost a month apart, another one not too far from there. That one actually had a total of 25 acres. We did a second phase of out parcels, believe it or not, back then. That got us into the retail business. Well, guess what? I added a retail leasing guy to it, and we added an accountant to it as well because we were dispersing draws, and while Stiles had their own accounting people, we needed to get into that and understand it. 2000 comes along, and we finished all 3 buildings and moved on. We wound up selling both Reedy Branch and Publix. It was our first full transaction from beginning a project to reaping, sowing the benefits of seeing some sales. Sold them both to Pacific Mutual, a pension fund they had advised. We rolled those two up with 3 Stiles had down in South Florida, and the total transaction was $61 million. Reedy Branch sold at $134 a foot. Windsor Commons at $147 a foot. So we were off and running into the grocery anchored business. We continued on and did another project, a Winn-Dixie project in St. Johns County. In 2002, did another Publix in Duval County in the same year. Moved into Clay County, did a Winn-Dixie down there. All the while selling them within a year to year and a half. Actually, I'm going to go back to this one. We sold this one to Prudential. They had a fund that was so desirous of finding a grocery anchor deal that they wanted to cut a deal before we were leased up. So we did. We sat down and did a floor funding based on the income stream that was in place. Gave us some time to do an earn-out. People here have got a concept of what the earn-out is. That was merely a period of time that said, we will give you X period of time to finish the lease up, and then we'll do a second funding based on a cap rate against that income stream that you have created by leasing the rest of it up. So we went along the route of continuing to build grocery anchored centers. Then in an example of being in the third-party business. 2003, 2002, we had been leasing a office building for a subsidiary of an insurance company. And not true of all companies that are institutional, but they were notorious for, we'd bring them some leasing opportunities, and they'd say, let me analyze it, and I'll send it to Wayne, and Wayne will send it to him, and he'll get back to Wayne, and Wayne will get back to me. By the time so many times, the inefficiency of their underwriting an opportunity, by the time we get an answer, the deal was cut somewhere else. It was frustrating. The building was 40% occupied. We seriously pondered giving the leasing assignment back to them. They called us and said, we're thinking of selling the building. And I don't know if you might want to market it. And we said, well, I think we'd like to buy it. And we did. We cut a deal with them that actually had 2 aspects to it. We bought the building and knew already of a tenant in the marketplace, Nova Southeastern University, who was looking to move. We had at one time even talked to the building owners about it. Nova was back and forth, do they move or not? So we finalized a deal with Nova to move over, and they initially took about 23,000 feet from us. That gave us enough to go ahead and finance the acquisition of that building. Nova now has grown in that 65,000 feet to about almost 60,000 feet of it. They have the vast majority of the building. Every time they would want to grow, we'd take their lease and negotiate it and put it back out to 10 years. They'd come back and say, we're doing great, we'll cut an amendment to the lease, but we want to extend you to 10 years. Keeping the fact that when you become more vulnerable, as your major tenant takes up all of your building, they become the 100-pound gorilla. But the more you can extend their lease term out, that gives you time to deal with the 100-pound gorilla. Last week, we put the building on the market for sale. It's got just 1 vacancy in it. We've held it a long time. We put some permanent debt on it a couple of years ago. We think the timing is right. We have other uses for the capital, and so we'll see. Wish us luck. Anybody that's got a dumb buyer, give me a call. The building owner, it's at the very top there, 6650 is what we call the building, and Nova's the tenant, had accumulated at the time when they moved into the market in a big way, being a sub of an insurance company. They had 55 acres there. They wanted out of the business in Jacksonville. They had been trying for a while, for years, and they never were successful. So we cut a deal to take the rest of that land down in 4 takedowns, 18 months apart, and commenced with the first takedown. Terry Stiles, while not an owner in the building, said, yeah, I'll take part in this. This is a good location. It's I-95 just south of downtown. So away we went, and we cut a contract with them, got a land loan, took the first takedown as required, and the Acosta building, we had actually brought a different REIT, and as a broker, we didn't take that land down, but we sold it to this Acosta company, who's still there. And, but we took down the first of 4 takedowns and almost immediately put up the Citizens building. Anybody know who Citizens Financial is? Headquartered in Tallahassee, quasi-governmental, the insurer of last resort, hurricanes, casualty insurance. If you can't, State Farm comes in and wipes out insuring in certain markets or others. There's the insurer of last resort that will take on insuring projects, homes in particular, and I don't want to get into a long tangent, but they'll lay off a lot of that risk under the other insurers, and it was some law enacted to give residents in Florida a home for insurance backed by every one of you that's a citizen of the state of Florida. Once the funding gets desperate, if they're losing money, they'll tax us. But they've been accumulating it. Interesting deal. We competed with a couple other companies to get this business, and there was a board on behalf of Citizens, because it was a state entity in essence, overseeing relocating some of their people from Tallahassee to here. So they were overseeing how the transaction came about. And we got in the beauty contest, got narrowed down to us and one other. Okay, we got your proposals. We want you two to come back to us and give us the lowest rent you can take, and we're going to make our decision. Okay, we sharpen our pencils. We go back, we make them a proposal. Okay, we've got that from both of you. We want you both to go back. We want you to come back and tell us what you would sell the building to us for, what cap rate. This is what you have claimed as your income stream. If we decide we want to buy the building, we're going to have an option on it. We want you to tell us what cap rate will you sell it to us for. Do a little gut check, make the proposal back, and we won the beauty contest. Well, the interesting thing and the impressive thing on behalf of those that were overseeing this effort on behalf of the state is we had a price that they would have to buy it from us for. They very cleverly took occupancy of the building. Cap rates were going down, looked at the price, went out, cut a deal with Inland, and took our contract, flipped it to Inland, and made a nice promote above what we were going to sell it. We were going to sell it at $7,350,000. Inland bought it at $10 million plus. Cap rates were dropping. They took the $3 million spread, gave it back to the insurance company. We walked away. We made some money as well. Great job on the part of private people helping a state entity. We've done some other things. I'm going to go back. So we put the Citizens building up. In our deal with Nova, they wanted to have an option to buy the building. We gave them an option to buy the building, first right of refusal. And as a part of that, they said, we want to take down a piece of land. So we sold them the Nova expansion piece. And we were happy to do it. It paid down another part of our takedown, got a little pressure off of us. We sold it to them at $9 a foot, which was a really good price. And they actually came back to us and bought some more development rights. We had excess development rights and paid us a little bit more money. Finally, 2008 started coming along. We got the final takedown that we got to take down. And it's like, whoa, what are we going to do here? Do we lose it? Do we keep it? Epic Properties, some of you may know them from Winter Park, longtime friends. Great suburban office building, garden office, or apartment building developers. Kyle Riva, the president, used to work at Alliance Mortgage Company with me many years earlier, and I went to Kyle and said, you want to do another deal in Jacksonville? You've done them a long time over the years. And God bless him, in January 2008, right when everything was going down, when banks were already under scrutiny, he got a bank to finance it and closed on it and built the project. We took a little profit off of the sale of the land. We left a little bit of money in it as a passive investor, and still are passive investor in the deal today. So that was 95 Corporate Center. I'm getting ahead of myself here a little. Citizens. We then sold the concourse after that in 2006. I'll just kind of speed through this, but there's an important point here. We sold it to Northwestern Mutual for $40 million plus. Kept the leasing and management, so we kept involved in it. Here's the thing. Put your eye on the second sale. It just sold in January of last year to Rosemont Realty. And we sold it for $40 million. They picked it up for $31 million. Real estate is cyclical. Things had changed a little bit. It's still a Class A suburban office product. But the market had moved east to a large degree. There was a little bit of vacancy in it. Not a lot. There were a lot of people that bid on it, but rental rates had come down to keep tenancy. And for the 10-year period from when we built it to when it was sold to Rosemont, if you looked at the statistics of office rents in Jacksonville, flat. They didn't go up. When you do your pro formas and you're putting your 3% in, think about that sometimes, because that is not necessarily what's going to happen. But it got sold, and we pitched Rosemont, and we continue to lease and manage the project. Here's one I wish I didn't have to talk about, but I do. St. Johns County. Some of you may know where World Golf Village is. It's the World Golf Hall of Fame. There's a golf course there. St. Johns County put their convention center out there. We knew some people that put a Publix and some retail out there, 28,000-foot Publix. Publix was all excited about this World Golf Village and the new convention center, and certainly there was already housing there and master plan for 7,200 units. And so they took an urban gorilla, a 28,000-footer, and put it out on the very edge of where development was occurring. We were actually approached by, I knew the guy that was doing this, a doctor. And so I set up a meeting with the Stiles guys and said, you give me the judgment on this. Here he's bringing it so that we can do it. They came up, we sat down and talked, and their wisdom was exactly correct. We're going to pass. It's a Publix deal. We're going to pass. I was fine with it. I got it. The deal was built. It was foreclosed. The people that were in it lost it. It stayed open for a while. I'll come back to that in a little while. But the same people owned all the land on the other side of that roadway that comes in, if you will, where the arrow is pointing. And they came to us and said, look, we got this land, we're in it upside down. What can you do that you think might be strategic? We sat down and looked at it and said, I think office condos. That's the way we can make some money on this thing. So we cut a deal with them to joint venture it and built 36,000 feet of really nice quality, maybe too nice a quality, office product. One two-story building of 24,000 feet, one building of 12,000 feet, one story. Trying to sell them about $185 a foot. Had some good sales, some of them as high as $200 a foot. And got through about halfway of the sellout. Again, the market starts doing this. We're feeding it. We renegotiated with our construction lender one time on it, extended it out. And that loan was coming back up. We were out of any interest reserve. We're feeding the condo association fees. We're paying real estate taxes. and we're like, wow, we got to sit down and talk to this, guys. We're going to both have to start feeding it. All the reserves are out of the loan. Well, we're passive investors. We want you to do that. Well, guys, that's not the way the deal is cut. The deal is cut. We'll use that up. You're every bit as much alongside of us by all the documents that were there. Well, they said, we don't want to feed it. Okay. Well, you have the right to buy us out. We have the right to buy you out. So we, make a long story short, we went to an auction and put it in the auction. A few of the units sold. We had coordinated very much above board that we had the backing of our construction lender if we got enough of the debt paid down. And we bid as our own entity to take the rest of that, the units down and the remaining vacant land just above the words Hallmark Partners, which is for a second phase. Not trying to be cruel, we gave them every opportunity to come in. They didn't. We still lease a building for some of those partners. It's what happens in the business. Now, we still have 6 units left. We finished 2 of them out. We're renting them out, get a little cash flow in, and our loan comes up at the end of November, and we owe $675,000. And I'm not looking forward to that. What are we going to do? Well, we've got some people coming in the morning from California from a 1031 tax deal where they've got to place their money, and we think we're going to cut a deal with them to buy the remaining units. We'll keep the phase 2 land and we'll pay off our construction lender. We never got paid a development fee. We never got paid leasing fees. We have some tax carry forward on it. It's what happens in the business. Not every deal is 100% going to work. But we'll get our lender paid off. We always have and we always will. So what else? The next thing we did is we closed in 2005. Yes?
Can you get back one slide for me? Did you say that was a public shopping center?
Yes.
Across the street?
Yes.
My question is, it seems like Publix entered a shopping center that wasn't right for the market demographics, and you had a couple successful Publix centers earlier. When you're brokering a new development, what considerations do the Publix people look for when they're going into a new site, and how do you sell that to them? So what are they looking for as far as the area, location, and how are you selling that?
Get asked that all the time, only because it's a really good question. And there's not a 100% answer to it, but I'll try to answer you a little bit. Obviously, customers, right? Rooftops. They're looking for, accessibility to their sites. They want to be seen on roadways that are accessible, and they're going to have good visibility, with the exception of one that we did that was not good visibility. Rooftops. How many rooftops? When we do our Publix or analysis, and I think a really adept retail broker could even, that speaks and tenant reps some other retailers could give even deeper answers to it. You're analyzing, obviously, what is the anticipated market trade area for this location? Does it interfere with another one of our stores? Are we going to pilfer from one to take to the other? What other competition is there? What part of the market do I think I'm going to get? What's the price range of the housing? If you're Whole Foods, they want to see X% of the trade area have master's degrees, or they don't go into the area. I mean, everybody's kind of got different criteria. If you ask that at Publix, they won't give you a clear answer, or at least I've never gotten one. But a good question. I'm going to show you Mirabella here in a minute, which we've been blessed is a screaming success, because we are the only Publix, we're the only grocery store in the marketplace to this day. And that leads right. Did I answer you a little bit? The answer is it's not clear. When we do it, we'll take housing inventory that exists. We'll look at projected housing to be formed by various sources. We'll try to project residents per household. If it's family area, that number's higher. We'll take postal counts and look at those. We'll take projected postal counts. All of this stuff, we wrap it up in a package and we send it to them, and they take it and they look at it, and guess what? They got all that down to a science. They look at ours, but they use their own. And so it's all those things. But basically, how do I know there's customers that are going to be here? And in the good years, they were all competing because the housing was just being flooded like a fire in a field, and they're committing on to corners, or they're committing 2 corners out. And guess what? It stopped again, and in a case or two I can think of, they have some locations, as do others, that I haven't done as well. I'm going to talk about one in a minute that we did. So that's kind of an answer for you, hopefully, but a good question. So in 2005, in the good times, yes?
You mentioned earlier that don't always assume that your 3% growth in the pro forma will be correct.
Mm-hmm.
You've got one office building and it dropped to 80%. Dropped 80%. How can you accurately estimate what your growth will be, or accurately estimate what drops you might?
Well, again, it's an art, it's a science, it's fiction, it's fact. It's all those things. There's not a perfect answer to that. It's a part of the skill set of the industry. How good is your vision? How good is your product compared to others? How aggressive are you being out in the marketplace finding them? How confident are you at the end of the day in what your mousetrap is versus somebody else's, and your people to make it happen versus somebody else's? Can you build yours a little more economically and afford to have your rental rate a little less than somebody else? It's a bunch of things, but I just know to say blandly, you run a 10-year, 11-year cash flow projection to just automatically assume that, you can make your numbers look real good doing that. Just don't necessarily expect that to be the case in reality.
Is there some way to see, you said the neighborhood had shifted, the people had shifted to a different part of town. Is there some way to foresee where they're shifting to? Or
Sure. You know, to this, I'll give you this kind of answer for that. We think, and I'll talk to it here at the end of this, that real estate's a local business. You know that by knowing your territory. You start to see areas going down. You're saying, I can point to some in Jacksonville. I can point to Regency Square Mall. It's common knowledge. That area has not done well lately. Tenants are moving out. The major part of Regency Square Mall sold for a song per foot. And somebody from way out of town either has some great visions, or they're looking at the per foots compared to other markets and go, wow, this is a real good acquisition. This is X per foot versus X plus 2. We'll see. But you know your area. You're out all the time. You see areas going down. You see that they're coming through on a road and they're going to put a concrete median right down the middle of it, and access is going away. You're out to the next corner. There's just a lot of answers. I probably don't know if I'm totally answering you, but know your market. Yeah, kind of. So 2005 we found this corner, which was all of 2 miles from the World Golf Village condos that we still own. We talked to Publix. This 28,000 footer is not making it very well here. It's out of its element. Yeah, we like your corner. We are not going to commit at this point. We're only 9 years into this deal. We haven't depreciated air conditioning and those types of things. So we're not committing, but we like your corner. We made a decision to get a land loan and go ahead and close in April of 2005. Not very often have we ever done that. It'd be very difficult in today's climate to get a bank to give you a land loan without a reason for going vertical quickly. But we did, and we held it, and until April of 2008. We held it 3 years, 4 years, 3 years. And how did we make sense out of that? Well, we sold one of the out parcels in the interim to CVS, who was desperately wanting to be there, and we took $2 million of our $3.3 million acquisition price and paid the land down plus some of the carry, which got it back into realms of reality, and then we executed on moving forward in April of 2008. It's Publix's store. Their whole board of directors came up. They made a big parade out of it. We were awfully proud. We still own it. We had sold, as you saw, 5 previously to this. Why did we own it? We decided strategically there wasn't going to be competition for a good while. We're getting and are getting great rents, and interest rates dropped. So we did an analysis of a hold versus sell, and we made some assumptions, as we all do, looking in the future. And we ran a scenario. We put a 3.55% interest rate, life company interest rate on it, which I never thought I'd ever see. So now the cash flow picks up because the debt is lower. We did an analysis of holding and equity buildup from principal pay down over a period of time, and what did that number look like versus cap rate exposure to see if cap rates did rise, where would the two of those basically cross? And we have decided, right or wrong, that we will take on the cap rate risk of going up because we're amortizing down fast enough. And I'm renewing 5-year leases out there right now at just very nice rates. So that's one we held on to, and that's why we did that with that one. Another one that maybe I'm not too proud to talk about, proud of what the execution of the product was. I came 5 miles east towards St. Augustine on the same road, State Road 16, competed with Regency Centers, and won, and took down this a piece of land called Mission Trace. Nice looking center, if I dare say so, and away we went. The down cycle hit again. These were in the times of the down cycle. 7 different developments, housing developments, that had gotten concurrency, development rights to start, never went anywhere. An example of what I was describing earlier. Housing stopped. I was committed. I already owned the land. I owned the land in 2 ways, by the way. It was partially a ground lease and partially an acquisition. It was crazy as it was, that's the way it took to cut the deal. Everything in white, except for the buildings, the parking lot, was on a ground lease. Out parcel number 2 was a part of that ground lease. The other 2 out parcels were owned separately by somebody else. As I shaped up the site plan, we created 2 out parcels, and away we went. Have a construction loan, had a mini perm on it, time's ticking, exercised my renewal option. This is the time all the bank auditors are in, all the loan officers are going, I got to write a report here, and you know, are you getting any more leasing? You know, it's coming up. So the answer was, while we had tests all the time, that were we meeting debt coverage service? We were meeting the debt coverage service because I'd put a loan on it against 30-day LIBOR, which was very low. But we hadn't leased it all up. But I was coming up on the last term of this loan, and the loan to value never would have penciled out. We'd have had to come up with $1 million, which we didn't have. There was only one choice, and that was to sell it. So I went to the marketplace, and H&R REIT, second largest REIT in Canada, came in and made an offer, and I sold it to them with 4 vacant spaces and cut a deal for, again, an earn-out, where they gave me 18 months to lease those 4 spaces. They'd pay me for 3 of the 4 if I got them leased. And the basic formula for that, taking an example of one suite, is if you lease the 1,050, you have to lease it for a minimum of $20 a foot. We will pay you a cap rate of 7.5% for each of those spaces you lease, but the minimum is $20 a foot. And by the way, we already underwrote the expenses on it, so what I negotiated is, you're not only going to pay me on the base rent, you're going to pay me in the CAM, because you're already paying the CAM. This is accretive. So we did that. I have not leased 1 space. I have a proposal that we're negotiating right now with an international company to take 1,050 square foot space. Our time frame to get any earn-out ends on June 18th, and hopefully we get a little something out of it. But we will see. Kind of an interesting structure. Earn-outs can be used effectively sometimes when you haven't stabilized out. Hallmark Partners today, can talk about that, and let me know if I'm running over too late, Wayne. I'm okay. How much time do I have left? Because I can speed it up. Pardon me? 15 minutes. I'll make it quick. Hallmark Partners today, we give you a couple of projects we're working on. One that has gotten quite a bit of press up in Jacksonville is 220 Riverside. We won a beauty contest against some others back in 2005. Some folks in insurance, in a law firm, and actually the contractor we've used a lot, owned 4 acres. There was a 60,000-foot building design for the law firm, and they were going to lease it out. The numbers didn't pencil out. They solicited developers. We came in and said, you can intensify the site. We designed a building for them. They wanted to own their own office building. And we said, we designed something for us. We'll take the rest of it down, and we'll do something with it. And I'm going to try to be brief on it. Let me just say it was our first advent into public-private partnerships. And it has been an experience. It was our first advent into urban housing. It was our first advent into actually developing a multifamily project. We love the area. Riverside Avenue, just right off of downtown. Jacksonville going towards Riverside, Avondale, historical neighborhoods, traditional neighborhoods, great neighborhoods. In between those 2 bridges, the one to the left and the one you kind of see going over the river to the right, are 6,600 office workers today, corporate headquarters of a lot of good corporations, and no apartments. It was a blighted area. The city condemned some of that land. They were anxious for some development. We initially came up with, that's the Riverside, Avondale area just further west. We came up with a concept to start with that we would fee develop the office building in the front, and being the geniuses we were, we'd come in and do condominiums on the rest of it. I'm going to skip through a lot of the entitlement challenges of dealing with the city, but I'm happy to talk to any of you about it. The market, likewise, was turning. We already owned the land. We tried to get the building financed for the, nobody would make the loan for them. We even actually got some tax incentive money. Still wasn't enough to pull the trigger for the sponsors. So the office building never went up. We certainly weren't going to do condos. So we played around. Do we find a hotel user? We got a hold of Marriott. They said they'd like to put a Marriott, limited service hotel there. We talked to a number of hotel developers. Nobody would quite pull the trigger. So we just continued to own the land, which was growing carrots on it at the time. We finally, the market turned, and we went to people we knew headquartered in Nashville, the Bristol Development Group. Great group of people. The president of the company we'd known from a prior company. Done a lot of urban housing. Done a lot of urban housing in Nashville. And we showed them the site, and they're like, wow, this is a killer site. Now, this is about 2011. This is a killer site. The principals came down, looked at it. We had done a lot of work to make it better. And they said, let's try to put some apartments up. The apartment market was there. So we came up with a plan. We had built, on behalf of the city, that pond that you see there. I'm speeding through in the interest of time. They paid $4 million to have what was a pond that was a DOT pond, a surface pond, into a structured pond. That's a master retention pond for a lot of the land in the area. And we came up with this concept. That is at grade, looking at what will be retail underneath, 5 stories of apartments, and underneath all of that are 2 levels of parking, 396 parking units. People go to work during the weekday. We'll open up some of the upper level parking for retailers, Saturdays and Sundays. That won't be able to work, but we have also some additional parking off-site. So we got about 16,500 feet of retail and 294 apartment units, and it's coming along. That's a elevation of it, rendering of it. I'll come back to it here in a moment. We go out to the marketplace with Bristol to raise the money. Interestingly enough, back then, coming out of a down cycle, we were advised, we hired some people that place a lot of debt and equity, and they said, go get the construction loan commitment first and we'll find the equity. We said, that's so unused to what we're used to. Go get the equity, and then the construction lender says, I got enough comfort here, I'll make you the loan. The credibility out there of anybody getting bank financing, go get the, so we did. We got a loan commitment at a number that any lender was comfortable with. We got 2 loan commitments, in fact, as they shopped the equity. We could not find anybody that would invest in this deal. And we searched and we searched. Those are the numbers, if you can read them there. Part of what we had done, we had built to a 7.9% return on cost. It was our theory. And we went to the city. I will just take a moment to tell you about this. We went to the city, who had been giving what's called REV grants on a 10-year time frame to incent development over the years in urban areas. What that basically meant was we agree to reduce 75% of the part of the ad valorem tax that doesn't go to libraries and some of those things. We'll give you 10 years, so you don't have to pay that. You'll pay it at the end of the year and we immediately rebate it back. Well, we needed 20 years, we felt, to get the investors. That took a lot of time lobbying city council members and everyone else, but we got it through and they approved that. Bottom line right there, by doing that, that boosted the return to 7.9 from what would have been 7.25. It cut $700 a unit off the operating costs per year, but nobody was biting. Why not? Well, Jacksonville's a Tier 2 city. We all like the Tier 1 cities. We like Miami, we like New York, we like all those big places. Okay, so we tried, we were getting nowhere until a brighter view came along. Our partners in Memphis knew the MAA folks a little bit. MAA had coincidentally come in second on trying to buy an apartment project right down the street on Riverside Avenue from us. And they lost out, telling us they bid something just under 6% cap rate, and they lost. They own 12 apartment projects in Jacksonville already. The thing about MAA is the bottom comment on the screen there. Employs a portfolio strategy focused on large and secondary markets. Unlike a lot of them that would go to the big markets, chasing yield down, competing with 10 other pension funds, they had the wisdom, the ability to talk to their investment bankers, they're a REIT, and they have had great success going to secondary markets. They came in and said, we lost a sub-6 deal down the street, we see this thing, we're in. Our deal was different though. They didn't want a construction loan. They are funding every nickel of the job. We have no personal guarantee on a construction loan. They took away some of our promote that we would have gotten on the deal. Some of the profit on the back end we would make. We finish the project, we hand them the keys, they're responsible for the lease up, we get a little bit of a promote, but what we kept, Alex and I, is the retail on the bottom floor around the park. We condominiumized it in some documents, and so we'll lease out that retail, and there's operating agreements between who pays John for this and that between apartments. And so there's a part of that you'll see in a moment here, that is a plaza area. We donated that. We could have built right up to that pond. It's my partner Alex on the left there. We donated that to what we created, a 501c3 called Unity Plaza. We hired an executive director ahead of time. The park will be the last thing to actually start construction. It'll be amenitized all around that pond. There's a business plan that's been created. We're out trying to raise donations for it. Activities will be ideally 365 a year. We've got an amphitheater that will seat 1,000 people there. We plan events daily. And I commend, if you Google anything on Hallmark Partners, you'll see Alex Coley's name all over that with Jen Jones, the executive director. They spent a lot of energy putting this together. Kind of another view of it. Kiosks, if any of you have been to Portland or some of these cities where you see people selling food in little vendor carts, we'll amenitize that with those. They'll roll in and out during the day into the night. The revenues from that will go to help pay for support of the park along with private contributions. You know, examples from some of the other running events, biking events, concerts, all kinds of things they're already coming up with. My partner thinks he's going to get Sheryl Crow there. Hope he does. Biking, we're going to have something called Bike Share, where it's going to be one of 30 spots in Jacksonville. You can rent a bike and take it to the next spot and move. Very much this urban interconnectivity deal. So here we go, and it's not going to move, so it didn't work, Tim. But that's all right. That's our project that was under construction early on, unless it kicks off. We will deliver that this fall. We're out talking with restaurateurs on the bottom floor. We've actually been to New York and Philadelphia, trying to get a couple of restaurateurs that are not in our marketplace. Monday, the guy from Philadelphia is coming in to look at it first time. We'll see where we'll go with that. Second thing we're doing now is Beacon Riverside condominiums. Another strategic alliance. Brian Weber had very successfully developed Villa Riva condominiums in a project south of Ponte Vedra. Pulled out of the market wisely because he could when he saw the down cycle came to us and said, you got this 220 thing going here, you're growing your company. I'd like to come on board and let me see if I can figure out a way to do some condominium development. So sure enough, we have located a piece of land. Beacon is the word right there. It's very close at the top of the screen. 220 Riverside is where we are, right on the river. He brought in the equity partners he's brought in the past on his other deals. We closed on the land last fall. Villa Riva on the lower left there is just around the corner. We bought the land right there, opened a sales center very close by on Riverside Avenue. We are in the pre-marketing phase right now. We've got 8 contracts signed. We need to get about 50% of the units, 45 units, 15-story building, expensive units, capturing people coming off their big homes, just much like Villa Riva did. Once we get the sales, we've got 3 different construction lenders that, yeah, if you get the pre-sales enough, we got good sponsorship in the equity partners, and we'll pull the trigger in that. We bought a building last year that, again, third-party services. We had leased and managed this building for a life insurance company. They want it out. We bought it. We've got it pretty well filled up. Other quick point, and you cut me off whenever these folks start to go to sleep here, and I'll let them go. Another real quick, important part of our company. When we formed it and we said we're going to do third-party service work, it was, yeah, we're going to do it, but we're going to be building shopping centers and we'll hire a retail guy. We're going to do office and we'll hire some office. And yeah, we'll go out and get a little third-party service business because we said we never want to get caught. But it was always just Hallmark Partners, and we were viewed, and still are, I think, primarily as a development company. But 2008-9, things slowed down again. We started studying where do we improve on and really become more of a brokerage property management company. In 2012, we bought from another private individual the NAI office in Jacksonville. I am going to speed up. NAI is a managed network company. Every NAI office is owned individually. It's the 5th largest group of offices in the world. They are all over the world. I was telling Big John we just opened 9 offices in China, and so he's going to open the 10th for us and send all the money back to me for opening that office for him. They're in North America, South America, Europe, Middle East, Latin America, Caribbean, Canada, United States, 12 offices in Florida. It has been very strategic for us. We decided to take Hallmark Partners and divide it into 2 companies. NAI, Hallmark Partners, management and leasing, took most our brokerage folks and pay them out of that company, and kept Hallmark partners to do development, strategic acquisitions. The reality is, everybody, we still cross-pollinate between skill sets of people where we need them, but we're very committed to it. One of the advantages of this that has paid off handsomely for us is that NAI Global is owned by Island Capital, that also owns C3 Realty Services, that also owns C3 Asset Management, which is the largest servicer special servicer of debt in the country. And very clever move to buy the NAI rights that this guy did, because while they have fiduciary relationships to each of those loans that they service, he found an instant distribution system across the United States and beyond that he can turn, not always, and say, this thing's being foreclosed, we need somebody to lease it and manage it. And we many times get tapped on the shoulders, and we're asked to do just that. We also, I'm a receiver on a 161,000-foot shopping center right now that's been, it goes to foreclosure next week. I've been a receiver since last fall. I appointed, imagine this, I appointed our company to manage and lease it. Very logical. We've had several of those like that. And then many times they turn into opportunities for us to sell the asset as well and get a brokerage fee. Very strategic. To date, since we bought the company in 2012, we've almost had $500,000 of revenue from the NAI connection. It's been very strategic. So that's just kind of explaining the benefits of that. We do corporate services work, another income stream we didn't have before. Brooks Health is a rehabilitative hospital. They have 30 locations across the state. We do all their lease administration, negotiation, and relocation. Yes?
I was wondering, why do you, it seems you really like to do new development, construct new buildings. Why do you prefer that over rehabbing older properties or repositioning older properties?
Good question, because that's kind of, I'm not being wise, because that's kind of what we've done. This guy's dad knows something about buying existing projects and doing very well with them. I don't criticize that model. Just haven't had the skill set yet. We bought a couple of them, the building we're in, the one I just showed you there. When you're buying them, better know what you're getting into when you do so. The benefits of that is the execution. You don't have all the pre-design, the land negotiation, the entitlement, the permitting, the lease up. All of that is brought down to a much shorter time frame, and I commend that strategy. We haven't done a lot of it yet. Won't say we won't do more of it.
So in the beginning, when you first started, what led you in this path rather than that path?
Terry Stiles?
Just the opportunities.
The opportunities, yeah. So we have designed a prototype, and we're telling them, you need to start branding your medical offices. And we're about to sign a contract and go execute on something not quite like that for them. And we're going to start doing some development of their medical office buildings. They own a shopping center. Don't ask me all the story of how they got in it, but they do. They needed to reposition it. They're in the midst of it. We switched out the ownership structure, got the developer a little bit more in a second position. I took over the leasing and management. I'm negotiating contracts for that phase 2 land right now. And we'll eventually sell the center. This is a hospital. We're doing corporate services. This stumbles into a business opportunity. The point I'm trying to make here is another diversified source of income where it can lead to things you can't even imagine. We have now an assignment to do something else on a pretty big scale for the hospital, not developmentally at this point. It's like, wow, we put in the front end work. We competed with CBRE and some of these others. Corporate services can be a very lucrative opportunity. So now we got $1.2 million of office, we got 700 of retail we're leasing and or managing, about 900 of industrial, all East Group properties that we lease. And we're going to try to sell 45 condominium units. Last year, $43 million, not big by a lot of brokerage companies' operations, total aggregate volume, 89 leases, 20 sales. We're going to try increasingly to take a couple of our people, both graduates of this program, and move them a lot more into going out and selling properties. They've got the skill set of underwriting cash flows. We hired a marketing person that can make the packages look better than anything, and we have ways of reaching the marketplace we didn't used to have. Daniel Burkhart, some of you remember Daniel, is a broker with us. He's in front of, every time we get a transaction done and the check comes in, we ring the bell and hope it rings daily. Take a picture of Daniel. Revenue, we divide our revenue between development leasing, which also includes property sales and property management. That's going from 2007 to 14. As you can see, it's growing. We've managed to either break even or make a little bit of profit, even in the down cycle. So we're growing. What was 2 people is now 26 people. We brought on an executive vice president to help handle our administrative functions as we're out running around in circles trying to make things happen. Really, we got pretty sloppy on the administrative side of things. We still got some work to do. He also is doing some of the sales directions in terms of sales force calls and the efficiency of that. That's just a wheel I put up a lot of times that talks about when you're in the business, it takes a while. You deal with all kinds of people. In a marketplace, you don't necessarily know who the best environmental engineer is year one, etc., architects, attorneys. Over time, that's a value by being in a marketplace. This is how we describe our company. The outside ring of the product that we do: residential, industrial, office, and retail, residential rental, residential sales product. Hope to do more of those. We'll see how that works out. And the inside of the services that we do, the inside circles. But we describe ourselves as working a single market and trying to execute on a multitude of product types and services, but we stay in the single market. Everybody has a different business model. We'll stay, for at least while I'm around, in Northeast Florida only and try to know it as best we can. Might grow into the senior housing business because of demographics. People like Tim Becker are going to be old here pretty quick. He's going to need senior housing. If we do, guess what? We won't go out and do it ourselves. We'll go find another Brian Weber that knows that business and go right on his back of his experience and add whatever support and see whether we can pull the trigger on something. Right now we're not there, but I sure would like to see us get into it. That's our mission statements. We certainly, number 3, want to create an environment in which each member of our team is encouraged and empowered to realize their highest ideals and potential. We bring people in. You may be in one business today, one segment of business today. You may not be there down the road. We like our platform. It allows people to cross-pollinate and grow and take advantage of their interests and skill set as they move along. Wayne had already talked about kind of what we've done to date. Last year in the summer, my partner Alex and I celebrated our 20th year together. We're about to celebrate number 21. And so real quick, lessons learned, summary. Some of you want to go into business for yourself. You may start the career in one area. Keep focused on what you want to do. Commit to getting there. It just may not be what you start out on. Just start with somebody that's an opportunity you think is leading you down a path to grow and to get there. Take it from a guy that learned the hard way. Don't go it alone. The interaction of ideas and knowledge between people, 1 + 1 = 3. I didn't know enough about it going out when I went out, and I got my head handed to me. We eventually, by the way, worked out of all of those assets, and banks got paid off. Go into business with a nest egg, whose theory, whatever. I say a couple of years where you could live without paying yourself. Alex and I laughed the other day how easy it was when we first started out. We won, of course it was. We had free office space. We didn't pay ourselves anything. There wasn't any expenses to worry about. But count on that, and then also count on the fact that you're going to need to fund some ideas you're doing, whatever it is, and you're going to need a couple of years. Network to death. NAOP, IC, SC, ULI, everything. Network, network, network. Represent yourself well. meet people you don't know when they're going to come back. Somebody sitting to your left right now may be very strategic to you somewhere in your future. I can see now, he doesn't believe that guy's going to help him at all. Develop strategic business alliances. What can I say? East Group, Terry Stiles, Brian Weber, you know, future senior housing guy. Who knows? But develop some strategic alliances. Even just know that you want to go to them in a year now or later if you're going to be doing something. That guy's going to be my guy for doing this when I do whatever in the future. Beware, prepare of the cycles. They're going to come. You're going to live through a bunch of them. We're in an industry that has one of the most reactive kind of scenarios. It's going to react very negatively and very positively. Prepare and beware. Focus on the relationship, just not the transaction. Our tag is, we don't build buildings, we build relationships. Don't just go for the transaction. Build a relationship. Work on that relationship. Work hard, keep humble. Somebody said something about, you know, to me a little earlier today about arrogance or something, I don't know. You know, people want to be transacting with people that they enjoy being around. It's just that simple. You get a little bit of success, and if your head starts to swell, you get ugly real quick. Be humble. Enjoy your success. Keep learning every day. Do the right thing, have fun, and I wish you all the best of luck. You're all sharp young people. You're about to enter a great career in a great industry. Thank you all so much.
Can you talk briefly about the Jacksonville economy? It seems like, at least the statistics, that it's lagging behind the other big four cities. Can you talk about potential for job growth there?
Well, an economist, I'm not. When I was in the mortgage banking business, I remember in Miami, we were always the market that would go up the most and one of the markets that go down the most. Jacksonville has some stability to its economy that other markets don't have. We've got the military headquarters there. We've got a certain amount of corporate headquarters there. Our housing is more affordable. Our labor costs are less. But you're exactly right. We haven't had the job creation of late that we would hope to have. We need to get more corporate relocations here. One thing, I had a conversation the other day with somebody. One thing that worries me a little bit about Jacksonville, which I love to death, is our airport. We are down to 25 cities now that we fly in and out of. Our airport is too close to Atlanta. It's somewhat too close to Orlando. If Kent is going to bring his company to Jacksonville, he's going to be looking at flight schedules and the ease of getting in and out. Now, technology and things are taking some of that away. We can get on the screen and talk to each other all day long, and some of that's gone away. But nonetheless, that's a negative. Just in today's paper, it was announced that we are included in a bill to get 400 of the $635 million for funding, dredging the canals from 40 feet to 47 feet. If that passes, we also have some other money that's been committed by the state. That will be big for the post-Panamax ships, the Asian ships coming over, surpassing California, Long Beach, where they've traditionally gone, coming around through the widening of the Suez Canal. A number of East Coast ports are going to pick up on that business. We think we'll get some of that. I'm going to, yeah, pardon me? Did I say Suez? Yes. Which one is? Panama Canal. I'm going to misrepresent this statement a little, but not by a lot. You know, one of the encouraging things that all of you ought to relate to, one of the magazines quoted that Jacksonville in the last 10 years created 90,000 jobs that are more populated by the millennials. The backroom operation jobs, and only to Austin, Texas. We are trying to do 220s, we're trying to do Unity Plazas, we're trying to do things that keep people like you wanting to come to Jacksonville or wanting to stay there. Job creation's down right now. I'm not an economist, but it won't stay that way. I can tell you that. There's a lot of energy right now on some things. But right now, if the last couple of years, we've been lower than most of the other Florida markets.
So when you first started the office, like a two-man office,
Yes.
and then you're adding some features like a brokerage, leasing, and property management into the company,
Mhm.
what is the most, value-added functions you're adding into the company, like helping you grow in the business? 'Cause
Well,
when you're small, when you
yeah.
cannot achieve the economy of scale, so these are
If, there's a lot of ways. I talked about the diversity of income from property management to leasing, et cetera. They're all income streams. Quite frankly, I don't know exactly how I would answer that. My inclination is say, give me the brokers, because they can go out and they can generate leasing and they can generate brokerage sales and they can help lead us. They're more in touch with the marketplace, and that's part of our strategy. The more brokers we get, the more things we're going to hear about happening in the marketplace, the more things we're going to be involved in the marketplace that lead us, and we tell the brokers, you come up with something that turns into a development opportunity, there's something more in it for you than just a leasing fee. So probably that'd be the answer, but if you looked at our bar graphs there, one of the stabilities that we've had is, I'm just going to say it this way, boring old property management. Pay the plumber, pay the landscape guy, collect the money, make the financial report, and send it to the owner. You know what? That is sustainable income that has been very much a part of keeping more of a stable baseline and growing to support our company. You probably get different answers by a lot of people. You probably get some say, I would never be in the property management business. I want just the brokers. Or I just want development guys. Or I just want acquisition guys. Our model is a little more broad-based. Is it the perfect one? Is it the right one? It's the one we're using. It's working so far. It has some downsides to it. We kind of get run a little bit around, Alex and I, in different directions a lot as we're trying to grow that. Do we risk trying to be doing too many things? The old adage, if you try to be everything to everyone, you're nothing to anybody. We're hopefully not going down that path, but certainly as we embrace opportunities that are diverse from what we've done, it gets a little more risky. We'll see.
Take a couple more questions, Mike?
Because you guys primarily do new development, how important is pre-leasing, and like what's the mindset difference between pre-leasing and then leasing a product that's already built?
Well, I'll answer the first part of that question first and see if I'm understanding your second part of that. Pre-leasing importance. There's two segments of that to ask. There's the person owning the company or the building, how important is it to him? And then there's the equity or the debt people and how important is it to them. Usually the second group are going to dictate a lot about what you're going to do with it, meaning it's important. How foolish do you want to kid yourself? Would I go out and build a totally unleased anything in Jacksonville, Florida today? Absolutely not. You run the risk. You're racing the interest clock. You have not identified. It's like starting the company when I did. You're building it all on debt. You haven't identified any of the income. So prudently, with capable brokers out there and principals out kind of understanding the market and soliciting and talking to the guy that owns this company, et cetera, you're going to be able to get pre-leasing to some measure. Certainly I hate to use the word never, but I almost think I would tell you we will never probably build anything or probably buy anything that was 100% empty unless in reality we had some pre-leasing in our back pocket that we knew we could put into it.
What's the best way to prepare for a downturn?
Well, one of the things is, again, we have tried to grow to the point of pain. We grow to the point of being a little bit overloaded with our people before we add somebody else on. I am blessed to say we have never had to ask one person to leave because we couldn't afford to pay them. So First of all, don't get overextended that way. Build a war chest. We try to keep a certain amount of money there for rainy days. Third, you know, be out there always looking and adapting to the marketplace. When you see the down cycle coming, what are you doing about it? You know, there's still ways to go get business even though there's a down cycle. In fact, there's different kind of ways. Many people have done it. Are you talking to the lenders? Are you seeing this building that's getting empty or whatever, this piece of land? But mainly, keep your eye out over the horizon. Be capitalized. Don't just casually get all caught up in seeing how many people you could bring on that you don't have use for, draining your equity. Thank you all. You had a lot of good questions.
Most of these folks are they're 2 or 3 weeks from heading out the door to the big world, and I can't imagine a better message to them than building relationships. And you really demonstrate that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
You bet. Thank you all. Best of luck to you.